Manchester United fans are in meltdown. The GlazersOut campaign is picking up pace. But is it real? Do Man United fans really believe in GlazersOut, Woodward out, and more confirmation that Jadon Sancho is close to being completed? We're going to delve into all of that right now on the Football Terrace. Hit the like button, share button, and let's go. Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. Good evening. We're joined by Neeks, Elite KJ, and Man Like Aaron. We're here to talk primarily Man United tonight because today I was triggered today. I had a nice PT session this morning in the gym. I was already frustrated because of I've been calling him Regulon. It's pronounced not Regulon. It's pronounced Regulon or something. I think actually I've been saying it wrong, but Sergio, we'll call him Sergio. He's gone to Tottenham. That sent me into a rage. Went to the gym. I'm angry, getting angrier. There's a Man United meltdown on social media. I'm seeing fake Man United fans with the Glazer out, Woodward out, this stop buying shirts out the whole time. And then the Jadon Sancho news breaks this afternoon, and it cheers me up that he still wants to join Manchester United. So we're here to talk about that tonight as a collective. Of course, we're going to interact with your live comments as well. Make sure you're hitting the like and share button. Where should we start first? What topic do you want to start on first, boys?
Now let's talk about there's pagans, isn't it? Now I might as well talk about Glazers and Glazers out.
Let's start with that. We'll jump into Jadon Sancho news a little bit later. There's been more confirmations that this deal is still alive, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail. So obviously the GlazersOut campaign is trending. It's absolutely everywhere at this moment in time. People wanting the Glazers out. People unhappy with the club, way the club is being run. And for me, there's nothing wrong with that sentiment. I don't want the Glazers running Manchester United Football Club. Where I have the problem is I'm reading these messages, and the problem is I'm sitting at home and I'm checking my shoes. I'm making sure the baby hasn't had an accident and he's nappy. I'm sitting there thinking, I smell shit. I smell bullshit. That's all I can smell the whole time. I'm seeing people in their new United kits. I'm seeing people that I know are going to renew their season tickets. I'm seeing people that I know at the weekend subscribe to MUTV moaning about the Glazers and the club being money hungry, taking money away from the club, not caring about us, rare. And I'm just thinking, you man are feeding the crack habit, you know? Feeding the crack habit. But you're moaning about it at the same time. And I just have a personal problem with hypocrisy. And I have a massive problem with virtue signalers. I want your opinion. I'm going to go to yourself first on this, KJ. What do you make of the campaign? And do you actually think it's going to do anything?
I just think, first of all, Glazers are pagans. Everybody put it in the chat. That's what it is, isn't it? But in terms of hashtag Glazers out, Woodward out, I get why people want to do it. But I just don't think it's enough to actually make them want to even bother about either selling or fixing the club or nothing like that. Because really and truly, it don't hurt their pockets at the end of the day. Like social media interaction, yes, they care about it, but not to the point where they're gonna stop running the club or start fixing the club up because a few thousand of us are saying Glazers out, when around the world there are how many millions of Man United fans that are still buying their kits, still buying the training gear, still buying not even like season passes for not even like a season pass or a season ticket. Like they're buying the passes for the TV subscriptions and all these different subscriptions they can get for Man United. So, and that just goes to their pocket. So it's just, I get the sentiment, and I wish we could see those Glazers go and Beanhead Ed leave and stuff, but I just don't think it's going to happen through social media campaigns. It's just peak like that.
Aaron, from your point of view, I mean, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, I think all of us, we did a poll, would all say, yes, we'd love the Glazers to sell the club. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. None of us want them here. But do you see the kind of hypocrisy in people going out and buying a new kit, you know, buying a baby grow for their kids, you know, buying the new pair of Adidas trainers that Man United are advertising, and then still moaning about how, you know, why we, you know, there's not this. Let's get the Glazers out that they waste their money. They're leeches. They only want to suck money out the club. Can you see a hypocrisy in that, in people moaning about it, but at the same time feeding it?
Absolutely, because I'm part of it. I do the same. You have to, sometimes in life, you have to be honest and hold your hands up. I mean, but yeah, if you really want to make a change and you really don't want the Glazers to, you do want the Glazers out because they're not investing enough and stuff, and you have to be honest with yourself. The only way to hurt rich people in this world, and not just in football, in my opinion, is to hurt their pockets. So, do you want change? Don't buy the merch. Don't buy unless you're getting the stuff sent to your house for free. Then that's another story, innit? But don't buy the merch. Don't subscribe to MUTV. I know it sounds crazy, but don't go to the games. Obviously now we can't. But anything that has to do with them making any sort of revenue that's coming from our pockets, don't do it. I know it's hard because we all love United. We want to see United win. That's why we go to the games. That's why we pay for drinks at halftime and before and after the game. Like, we do all these things because we love the club. But if we have to be realistic, these things are really just putting money into their pockets from us, from our point of view. So you just have to be real with yourself, innit? But it's hard. I understand it's hard because you look at, I mean, these year's kits, like, I'm looking at them and going, maybe it's the first time I might not buy a kit.
Yeah, because they're dead anyway. I'm sorry, Leaks. I know you've got the third kit right now.
That's why I still got the one from last season. That
was wavy, fam. That was actually worth the money.
Sure, I will say that, Aaron. I get you buy stuff from the club, but you're not out there acting like some activists trying to like stir up protests and like we're going to march out and having to go at people that. Because what I'm seeing a lot of is, we'll get onto the Reguilon deal later, but if you defend Man United's actions in the Reguilon deal, it's, you're a Glazer sympathizer.
Yeah.
Stop shouting at me like we're in a political debate here. I'm simply said that's a good bit of business for us to pull out of that deal. Doesn't mean I'm enjoying the Glazers. I think for me, it's the virtue signalers. I don't look at you as a virtue signaler. I know that Neeks was talking about buying the third kit. Neeks isn't going around, so like acting holier than thou, acting like the Man United version of Bono. Do you know what I mean? They're still flying around in private jet. I get where I'm coming from. These people that like talk about, we've got to do the virtuous and the right and the most integral thing. Same with Flex. Flex has been called out because he wore the new Man United away kit.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I said, unless you're getting sent the stuff to your house.
Yeah, well, but even then, right? If you're advertising the Man United kit, but then at the same time you're trying to arrange a protest to get the Glazers out, I've got a problem with that. I don't really think that's what Flex is doing. As I mentioned, my guy, who will remain nameless because he's a friend of mine, runs a big Man United website. He's a gamer as well, has his own YouTube channel as well. He like advertises it. He did like an unboxing of the new kit. And I'm like, bro, you can't be Glazers out and then do unboxing videos of new kits. That for me is advertising it. And I think that's important. Nick, where do you stand on the campaign? Are you going to do anything proactive, or are you thinking, I'm just going to do me, be me, and ignore it?
Listen, first and foremost, everyone, thanks for. I like you love my house. It's not a great, it's real. I own all of this. Basically, I bought shares in the Football Terrace, and it's gone through the absolute roof. 162K subs. That's about 162,000 in my bank. So that's why I got all of this. So that's the first thing. Secondly,
when's the housewarming? When's the housewarming?
So talk to Boris. Boris J. See what you can send. We can see if we can get more than 6 people in the house. That's the first bit. Secondly, in terms of the whole GlazeOut campaign, I have no issue with people, hashtagging Glazers out, Woodward out. I have no issue with it whatsoever, because I'm not in a position to say that you're lying. You don't believe that the Glazers should be gone, the Woodward should be gone, for example, because I believe the Glazers are terrible owners. For example, I want them gone. My main issue with the GlazeOut campaign, or those who are at the forefront of it on social media, is when they try and call out other fans, as you mentioned, as Glazer, sympathizers, or Woodward sympathizers, whatever. If you don't have an opinion that directly aligns with theirs when it comes to, Man United's operations, whether very specific or very general. That's my biggest issue. I have no issue with you doing you, basically, but don't try and drag people and pull them under a certain sector or umbrella because they don't agree with you. That's my biggest issue with those who are leading it. You know, a lot of those pages on Twitter, love United, hate Glazers. I meet all of them anytime I see them, because the majority of things that come, and some of them are more innocent. You'll get people who are, say, following the trend, and they'll put in love United, hate Glazers. So I don't necessarily just mute them, but I see the content of their tweets and their replies and under certain, you know, big accounts, United Report, for example, your pages, you know, TFT and Terry Flewers, etc. And I see what kind of replies they're giving. I was like, you're just here to spread complete negative vibes. And I click on their pages, and they've got Mourinho as their cover picture holding the Europa League trophy. And I'm like, you're either not, wait, for me, you're not a real United fan, because you're a Mourinho fan, or so you might be a Mourinho sympathizer, or you're just on this Ollie out brigade, and anything that can shroud negativity around him, around Manchester United, you are there and at the forefront of it. And that's why I don't align myself with that movement, because it's got so much convoluted energy and misdirection of energy, really, where I think, for me, I think we're better served, one, getting behind the team, especially on social media, when you're completely surrounded by opposition rival fans who are doing enough to bring negativity around Man United, that we need to be backing the team. However, if you are truly Glazer out, then be Glazer out in the proper way, which you mentioned, financially. That's the only way they're gonna listen.
And that's
what you forgot to add at the end of what you just said. Hope this helps.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're so right, Nick, because I've got a lot of friends that I used to go to games with that still go to games, and they're like, "Oh, Terry, but I want to support the boys," and they go, "I want to go to the games to support the players on the pitch, but I don't support the Glazers." And I'm like, "That's fine, but if your overarching belief is that they're money-hungry leeches, and they only care about taking money from us, a protest, green and gold scarves, even if you walked out at 70 minutes." You've still paid for your. They don't care. They don't care about bad PR. What they care, the only time they'll care is if it's affecting and impacting the bottom line. So you can be very, very quick. Look what happened at Arsenal. As soon as they started like not going to games and stopped spending money, change came quick. And you can always get, fans really don't understand how powerful they are, but it takes real guts. It takes real guts to give up a season ticket you've had for 10 years. It takes real guts to tell your kids we're not buying the kits this year out of protest. People, because then you get another group of United fans that will speak up and say, well, you're actually not real fans because you're not putting money into the football club anymore. And it's getting that balance right. But I think, as you've all pointed out, someone there who's a virtue signaler that's like, I'm going to attack anybody that isn't vehemently Glazers out. But at the same time, when you see them, as you say, buying their kit or going to games, I just can't help but sit there and think, I don't think much. I just think I'm not going to take you seriously. I don't believe in what you say. I don't believe in what you think. And that kind of brings us on to the Man United meltdown, because today I have seen fans arguing the toss over whether pulling out of the Reguilón deal or not is good business by Manchester United. And I suppose the overarching theme that I see is the Glazers already take loads of money out of our club. I don't care about how we spend money. We should just break the bank to bring people in. Those same fans, when it's not a transfer they want, like, say, Maguire, they cry that we've overpaid and we're not good at negotiating and we do bad business. So my kind of question is sort of, are you guys happy? And we'll go to KJ first on this, with what we've done in relation to individual deal in terms of Reguilón. And how do you want to see Manchester United behave in the transfer market sphere? Is it willy-nilly spending, get players in at all costs? Or do you want us to be more thrifty and frugal and ensure that we're asserting power and not being sort of bent over a barrel? Like, your view on it, KJ, is it worth the meltdown? And how should Man United actually be behaving?
In terms of the Reguilón deal, this is probably one of the smartest things this board has done in 7 years. It really is, like, for a club of the size of Man United to buy a player, no matter how cheap he is or whatever you think it is, to have a buyback clause. And not only a buyback clause, but a version of a first refusal. What is it called again, Tori?
Preemptive.
To have two clauses like that. Yeah, to have two clauses like that on one of your players is ridiculous. Like, it makes no sense. If we are really on this, we're building for the long term, we only want players who want to be here kind of vibe that we're going for, signing Reguilon, no, as I said, don't care how cheap he is. Signing Reguilon with those two clauses doesn't line up with what we're trying to do. It just would make us look like mugs. Spurs look like a small club right now because only small clubs accept buyback clauses for bigger teams. It's basically a glorified loan. And so I'm glad United didn't do it. Like in an individual deal, well done United for not doing that because that would have been ridiculous. In terms of how I'd want us to like go forward, and if I'm about just paying whatever or being frugal or something like that, I look at it like this: like I'm all like you hear the line, "We're not going to be held to ransom" a lot over the last couple of years. But I'm like, all right, cool. That's a great line to spout when you're top of the league, fam. You know what I'm saying? When you're on top of the league, you can be like, oh, we're not going to pay this much. You're not going to pay that much. But when teams know that we're still trying to build and still trying to get to the top, of course they're gonna put a premium on the players that they've got. So I'm saying, listen, if they really are the top players like a Jadon Sancho, and you know that could take you all the way to the top, pay the money.
Can I just say quickly too? I think for me, the biggest thing is that we want a board, owners, etc., managers included, who are going to make the best footballing decisions for this club. So I think put the money to one side for a second. Is it a good footballing decision? For example, buying Maguire, was that a good footballing decision? I say yes, because we needed a better defender. Maguire was one of the best in the Premier League. Maguire still is one of the best in the Premier League, and we purchased him. Now, then when you want to talk about fees, have you got the money? What kind of percentage of your revenue are you willing to spend to strengthen that position? How necessary do you think that position is? Then you can discuss the money. When it comes to something like Reguilon, first and foremost, is that a good footballing decision? And by signing Reguilon, forget how much it was going to cost. Signing Reguilon with a buyback clause and a first refusal clause is a bad footballing decision because it means that you don't have control over the player, which means that you cannot plan and build for the long term because you have no idea whether he's going to be there or not. And I just want the club to make good footballing decisions. So Bruno Fernandes, purchasing it, even if we purchase him in the summer for 60 million, it's a good footballing decision. In January, it became a good footballing decision and a good financial decision. But for me, the first port of call is good footballing decision. Jadon Sancho is a good footballing decision.
Mate, do you know what's interesting as well? We'll go to Aaron in a second on this. When it comes to this kind of winning the transfer battles, we were speaking to Everyday Same earlier today, and he pointed out how we will struggle against Borussia Dortmund because Borussia Dortmund are probably renowned for being the best team in Europe when it comes to the negotiations, especially of selling players. And the point I raised is that why are they the best? Because they've been doing it this way forever and they don't yield and they have a reputation of being very difficult to do business with. They get a great deal for themselves. If Man United want to be seen as a team that does good business, you're going to have to just stick to it. Sometimes it means in the short term, you're going to miss out on the target that you want. This
is the problem. We're trying to undo 6 years of bad business whilst still trying to get to the top. So if from 2013, let's say, for example, when Fergie went, and we acted like this, we wouldn't be in this situation in terms of what how we go into negotiation, how oppositions deal with us. But because we're trying to undo all of that, so paint ourselves in a better light within the market, whilst also trying to purchase players who are of good quality and therefore command a big price, where it's like we're caught between a rock and a hard place. Do we undo all of that bad PR, basically, how we were seen in the last 6 years? Yeah. Or do we go out and spend 120 million on a player because we need him?
Well, what's interesting as well, just before we go to Aaron, is narratives gets changed. And I think this is where Man United fans need to back their club and be stronger. A lot of people, the narrative is in the Harry Maguire situation is we ended up capitulating and paying what was the original quoted price. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to do 5 minutes research and look at an article from the day after the transfer window opened by some of the leading, Sam Wallace and James Ducker, some of the leading football minds within football. who quite simply stated that that Leicester have told Man United that Harry Maguire will cost at least 90 million. And if you go back and look between the 2nd of July when this article was made up until about the 30th of July, 95% of articles were quoting prices between 85 and 95 million pounds to sign Maguire. We then get that price down to 78 million pounds. And instead of the media reporting on it accurately, that Man United reduced the price, they spout this narrative. And of course, rivals jump onto this. And I applaud rivals for doing this. You always try and make your rivals' deals look worse than they really are, or you try and take the gloss off of them. We got the players for £12 million less than Leicester wanted. Now, yes, we negotiated for 2 months to get to that point. We lost in one element of the battle. We wanted to pay in installments. That was blown out the water because suddenly Man City came in and said they were prepared to do that. That ruined our ability to negotiate because Leicester would have just said yes to them and no to us, and we may not have signed Maguire. So we got the price down. Now, would I have liked to have seen from a financial standpoint another 10, 20 million not taken off the price? Yes, but we still got the price down. We did the same thing with Bruno Fernandes. And I've seen tweets from leading journalists in recent days talk about how United, I won't get this verbatim, but they basically said Man United don't want the same problems to occur with Sancho as they had with Maguire and Bruno, where they capitulated in the end. And I'm thinking, capitulate? We ended up with better financial deals for both players by playing the long game. But again, because it's not sold like that, no one is pushing that out that way. And even Man United fans, and I think it's because we feel like we've been cheated on so many times by the Glazers and cheated on so many times by Ed Woodward. It's like we don't want to back them almost. But we did good business there. And if we bring Jadon Sancho in for 120 million euros or less, we're getting in below market value, and we're making the biggest signing in British transfer history. This notion that it's just going to be like, I had a Chelsea fan phone up earlier and say he feels sorry for us because we always do deadline deals like Rooney, like Berbatov. And I'm sitting there going, but you're a Chelsea fan. You've done loads of deadline deals as well. I don't understand why United seems to be the only team who are being dragged through the coals for working hard to get the right money for players we sell and trying to reduce the prices of players that we're bringing in. And the reason I'm frustrated at people melting down over that is we moaned for 6 years that we didn't do that. So why are we now moaning that we are trying to do it? It seems to me like there's a lot of fake Man United fans, as you said earlier, with the Love United, Hate Glazer group, who it feels like they just want to be negative for no real reason. And it's okay to be frustrated. I'm annoyed if we don't sign Reguilon, if there's no other option. I'm annoyed in the short term. Why didn't we do it? But I'm prepared to look at the bigger picture because we didn't get Bruno in the summer. Now, I would have liked him, but we then got him in the January and it made sense. It was like, I'm so glad we now didn't go for, imagine we went for a different target. Imagine we went and broke the bank and got James Maddison and we didn't have Bruno. Who knows how that would have gone? Like, Aaron, from your point of view, why do you think there's such a meltdown at the moment from Man United fans?
I think it's the fact that, the words hijack and the fact that it's Tottenham Hotspur. I think it makes it a bit worse, sorry. I just think, obviously, I kind of overreacted as well, because I just saw the words hijack and Tottenham and Reguilon, and I was like, come on, no, this got to be happening. But then I read into it and I found out about the buyback clause, and I thought of all these times where Spanish teams do this thing where they'll sell a player and then all of a sudden they'll bring him back just to sell him for more. They did the same with Morata. Remember when they sold Morata to Juventus? Yep. And then by coincidence, when Morata knocked them out of the Champions League and scored that goal at the Santiago Bernabeu and didn't celebrate, all of a sudden they bring him back just for them not to play him as much as they did.
Yeah, for one season and sold him.
Just not to play him for a season, and then they sold him to Chelsea. So it's not new, man. Spanish teams do that. They did the same with Jordi Alba. They sold him to Valencia. He had 2 great seasons, but 1 great season, I think, brought him back. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, they kept him eventually. But yeah, Spanish teams do that, man. So I'm not surprised. And to be honest, I wish Reguilon all the best at Spurs. But I don't think it's smart business from a football club to buy a player and you bought the player, the player is yours, but somehow you kind of know that you don't have the full control over him because at any given moment his former club can just ring you up and go, yo, we want him back. And you can't say nothing because it's in the contract. That's the clause. So I was a bit gutted, let's say, because just like you, Terry, I'll be gutted if we don't. Yeah, I wanted him as well. And just like you, Terry, I'll be gutted if, well, he will end up going to Spurs. But if he goes to Spurs, if he signs officially for them, and we don't get someone else in for that left back spot, that's gonna annoy me.
And we got, just to add on the point in terms of Spanish clubs, it's happened to us already before, not in terms of a buyback clause, but we had Gerard Piqué, got him from Barca.
There you go.
Had him for a few years, and he went all the way back. And do we wish we had Gerard Piqué? No, it worked out in the end. We went on to win titles and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, he was still a player that had a lot of promise, and we wanted to nurture and grow, but we couldn't do that because he left. Absolutely. Same with Arsenal and Fabregas. Like, they would have loved Fabregas to stay for for an extra how many years, but because of the way that Spanish clubs are with their youth players and getting them out there and being able to get them back easily, you're not going to get the full potential out of those players. So because I am not too upset.
From what we heard, Reguilon, he sees a future of him playing for Real Madrid. So even if you signed him and there was, and again, I want him. I want the player. And if we were to sign him and be successful, you're more likely to keep him at the club and away from the clutches of a Real Madrid, for example. But you mentioned Fabregas. They didn't have a buyback clause in that. However, because he always wanted to play for Barca, at some point he's going to say, "I need to go back." You want players who are fully committed, and what I've heard also is the player kind of wanted a buyback clause in there,
and I agree with you.
In return to Real Madrid,
I agree with you, and it makes perfect sense because
of course it does.
It makes perfect sense because obviously now Real Madrid, their two left back options are Ferland Mendy, who they got from Lyon, and Marcelo. Marcelo's not getting on. Exactly, he's not getting younger, so eventually he's going to have to go or retire or whatever the case may be, and then that will be the perfect moment. In 2 years' time, I can see Real Madrid go to Spurs and say, we want him back. And then Marcelo's probably going to leave, move on, and then they'll have, again, two options at left back, and then they'll just be able to switch between Mendy and Reguilon. So,
and look at the prime example at their end of what they did with Morata. He goes to he goes brilliant for a year or so. They buy him back cheap because of the buyback clause, and then they sell him to Chelsea and make themselves a profit. And they weren't paying his wages in that time. Nothing. It's great business by Real Madrid, but it's awful. I mean, and Juve have done that a few times. I mean, Juve just to sign Paul Pogba, they said sell on fee. 40% goes to Mino Raiola. So they got a record 80 million pounds, 85 million pounds, I think it was. Sorry, 89 million for Paul Pogba as a fee. But 40% of that instantly went to Mino Raiola. So that's why it took so long, because they were trying to get as much money as possible out of Man United, because they knew they were losing a large percentage of that because of the clause. And you look at the Haaland deal. Again, I wanted Haaland so bad. So bad.
We remember the videos.
And I thought it was there. And then but it's like everything. I have my personal reaction to something. And then when the information comes out and the dust settles, you watch the pint of Guinness settle, and then you go, okay, let's dip our toes in. And why would I ever want a player with a £50 million buyout clause? Rivals all said, yeah, but you could make him fall in love with United and make him want to stay. No, you're coming here to want to stay in the first place. We have bought mercenaries before. Now, I'm not calling Haaland a mercenary as such. I think he wanted to move to a club from Salzburg where in 18 months to 2 years, his options were completely open. And that club that buys him has very little option but for him to leave if a £50 million bid comes in. I don't want my club doing that kind of business. And just to share a bit more with you around the club doing very, very well, these things all get lost from fans. When we were first linked with Aaron Wan-Bissaka last summer, the major newspapers in the early days were talking about the deal costing around £60 million, and we were going to struggle because we put a £40 million bid in, and that was rejected. Again, this is here again from the Telegraph. This is Matt Law. Chelsea fans the other day said Matt Law is the most credible journalist out there. He knows exactly what he's talking about. So we got, according to a credible journalist here, Aaron Wan-Bissaka for £10 million cheaper than originally requested by Crystal Palace. There's other articles on here I'm reading about Man United reluctant to pay £70 million for Fernandes. This was a week before we signed him. We paid £47 million for him in the end. So if you look at these deals, the original quoted prices in the media were all 10, 12, up to nearly 30 million pounds, so up to 25 million pounds less than we actually ended up paying for them. But that narrative is never pushed forward. When we end up signing them, all we hear is United caved in the end. It's like, what do you mean we caved in? If we caved in, we'd have paid the initial price they asked for. You literally, either you lied then as journalists, or you're lying now. Either way, you've lied. Tell us when you gave the wrong information, and they don't. And this is why Man United fans have got to be smarter. We Man United keep newspapers alive. We keep social media football pumping. Without Man United news, football Twitter is dead. We dominate. Like, literally today, the biggest. I went through this Chelsea fans account. He's got about 35,000 followers. All these tweets get good traction. The biggest traction he's had on a tweet in the last 2 weeks is bantering Man United every time he thinks he's not going to get somebody. He's got more likes and retweets than when he praises his own football club. That's how massive Man United are. And just the Arsenal fans that are laughing about the Sergio deal not happening, when this completes, it's rumored that the money that Real Madrid get for selling Sergio is going to fund their pursuits of Hassim Aouar. Means you could lose your main target based on this deal. So before you laugh too loudly, a big super chat here from Pav, who says just a little appreciation for giving us all a platform to come and speak, my bro. Pav came on earlier. Pav was very animated earlier. So I appreciate you saying that, bro. Thank you very, very much for everything you do, Pav, your super chats, phone calls, and everything else. Everyone who's tuning in, we're on like 500 likes. Let's get this past 1,000 likes while we're live, please. But hit that like button.
Come on, people.
Terry,
let's go.
So go on.
Just do these super chats. Another Terry is saying, like, you agree with RNA, like loan. Okay, you're trying to teach a dyslexic to speak here live on the internet. Terry, try saying Reg like you without the A and R.
Oh, he's trying to make you
trying to make you say
it properly. That's what he's trying to make you do.
He's trying to say regular.
Okay, there we go. Regulon. I'm just going to say Sergio for now. It's easier than me learning about. Serge, man like Serge. Bazon as well says, I see it as a positive, maybe as we'll get Telleth now and a more attractive player.
This is what I wanted to just talk about quickly. Is like this deal, this fall through for United, this collapse of this deal isn't bad right now. Where it becomes semi-embarrassing is if we're not able to get any reinforcements in that position for around the same price. That's what I believe anyway, because you got Tellers available. If you really wanted, you got Grimaldo. There are other left backs out there who are around the same price, who are arguably better because they're more experienced.
And when it comes,
and United can get there.
When it comes to the squad, what I'm still confused about is Jamal Lewis went to Newcastle. I would have been happy with that.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
If they were signing Aarons as a backup fullback, I'm happy. You know, there's still like Campbell, there's still Buendia, there's still players out there cheaply available who can improve our squad, and you can pick them up. That's where I would be frustrated. By the way, I said the other day, I'll keep the same energy. If someone said to me now, Thiago and Sergio or Sancho, you had to pick one of the two. I always said I'd go with Sancho only. Like, I want that as the primary deal. But there is business to be done out there, and I just think that we need to stay positive. I think the club are going to try and do it.
I think this is the biggest frustration, I think, because you look at Chelsea, for example. The Kai Havertz deal took very long. But whilst that was going on, they were strengthening in other areas. So Chelsea fans at least were, even though some of them were like, we still want to get Havertz. Where's Havertz? Where's Havertz? They were being satisfied, and the squad was being boosted in the other areas. So as you said, there's still business to be done out there, and the Sancho deal should not hold it up.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it is holding it up, because of course we got Donny van der Beek, we were negotiating for a Regulon, but the problem is we've only got Donny van der Beek, and our season starts on Saturday. We don't trust this board to get things done, and that's why I think that's the biggest thing. Chelsea fans know Abramovich will get stuff done. Whether Lampard's the manager or not, Abramovich will get it done. Yeah. And they could rest easy with that. They were so confident that they were going to get another keeper because they know Abramovich gets stuff done. If we need another keeper, we don't, but if we did, we cannot trust that the Glazers are going to release the funds to get it done.
And I agree. And I also get the notion and the anger with... You know, we know how much money the Glazers drag out the club. If we hadn't have done that, we'd have more money to spend on transfers than Chelsea and Man City, because it would never damage us on financial fair play. It isn't money being pumped in by the owners. It's genuine money that we earn. And I think in 2020 alone, they've taken about £25 million out of the club. You know, if you added up what they take over, say, a 3-year period, it's a world-class player every 3 years. Like, we could afford what they've taken out of our club. We could have gone out this summer and bought Mbappe, Kai Havertz, Jadon Sancho, and like Oblak. Like, we could have gone out and just done that with how much money they've taken out of our club, and it's affordable if we had it. So I get why people dislike the Glazers. I suppose what I said earlier is this: we're going to move on to the Sancho deal in a minute. I don't think we can do anything about getting the Glazers out at all until millions of fans, because that is what it equates to, are willing to stop spending a single penny on Manchester United. And until we have a big enough group that are willing to do that, for me, it's a waste of energy and time talking about getting the Glazers out. So then you move to plan B, which is, well, we need to be more thrifty and frugal with our money, meaning I want us to behave like we are in the transfer market, where we reject the notions of the Dybalas because he didn't really seem interested in the project. It was more about money. How I think what we're doing at the moment with Thiago, I don't think what Thiago's asking for is the issue. I think it is more how much more he's asking for from us than Liverpool, which gives the feeling that, if you pay me enough, I'll come. I don't want that. I don't mind being second choice.
Terry, why do you
be part of what we're trying to build? And that, for me, is where we need to be careful. Don't sign people that are not bought into the idea and want to be here in one way, shape, or form. And secondly, don't be doing crazy deals with these. I don't want to behave like Dortmund in the transfer market from a sales point of view, because I don't want to know these people in 2 years' time.
In terms of Thiago, why do you feel that he's asking for much more? I've only heard that where we've spoken to him, not that he's rejected us, but his first choice is Liverpool. I haven't got the impression that we've reached.
No, I think Terry's saying if that is the case,
if that's the case,
if that is the case, Terry don't want him.
He's asking for too much money.
Okay.
I disagree with that decision, because he's one of the best midfielders in the world. Pay the man. Like, seriously, if you've got to put him on 250 grand a week, I say pay him. However, if he's agreed to go to Liverpool for 150,000 and he will only come to us for a massive hike, that gives me the impression that he's not bought into the idea of being at Man United. So I don't want that, because, you know, we don't want him doing a couple of training sessions and going, oh, what have I done?
Sanchez 2.0.
Yeah.
That's an insult towards Ollie. I'm not even making that. That's not an insult towards anybody. You know, I just don't want people coming here that are not, you know, what the impression I get with Maguire, Bruno, Van der Beek is they're like, oh, I'm so happy to be a Man United player. And if Thiago has that within him, then break the bank. But you've got to want them to be here. Like, I would look at the Aubameyang situation as a prime example. Did he look at other clubs? Yes. Do I think he's very, very happy to stay at Arsenal? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do I think he also wanted big money as part of that? Yes,
Yep.
also. He wanted both. So if a player wants big money, but they're buzzing, it shouldn't be hard in a conversation to tell whether someone's interested in the project and money, or just money.
Also, look at Dybala. Why we didn't go for? Let's be honest. We would have signed Dybala in last summer, if this was pre-Ollie, because the likes of Sanchez. Dybala wanted to know. He didn't really want to come. He wanted to stay at Juve for his place. He probably knew Sarri would be gone in a year, and Sarri's gone. I got a chance to shine at Juve, but he was willing to come if we gave him enough money. But that was his only concern, not the vision, not the plan, not where Solskjaer wants to play. And Solskjaer knew that from the first discussion. He said, "Yeah, we're not. We agreed to fee with Juve, but we know, we know that he doesn't want to come, and that's enough for us." So I have no qualms that whoever we sign under Solskjaer, I trust that Solskjaer knows that they want to come to the club. Finally, on the regular, because some people have been saying that. Well, look at Hakimi when he went to Inter Milan. They negotiated out the buyout clause. The difference between Reguilon and Hakimi, there was no other club in Hakimi at the time.
And there's no other club that actually said, Real Madrid, I'll give you what you want.
Exactly. So I believe that if Spurs didn't come in, we would have Reguilon without the buyout clause. There was no way we may have put in a first refusal, but we wouldn't have put a buyout clause in there. But once Spurs came in and said, yes, we want that, we're willing to accept exactly what you want, then our only other option, we have two options. Either match Spurs' bid or pull out. And I think all of us can agree we don't want So we wouldn't want to match what Spurs.
Yeah, because Spurs even paid more as well. They paid more.
Yeah.
Wow, Spurs are on a madness here as
Yeah,
well.
they're about to get Bale, isn't it?
You're about
So
to
they're
get
about
Bale.
But this is it's details that I always care about. So I think it's the financial element that excites
It's
me.
the salary, innit?
So that Real Madrid are asking for 100% of the salary, right? Which is about 400 to 500 grand a week to be paid by Tottenham.
Now.
Mourinho has told Levy to get it done. Now this is mad, right? If you bring in any player on 400 to 500,000 pound a week, highest paid player in the league, man's got to be delivering with that. However, this could be the difference for Tottenham because I've been talking about how it could be toxic and all this and stuff, right? And it could be. But if you give Mourinho what he wants, he very rarely becomes toxic. And I think that's an interesting one there in terms of them doing that. But if Tottenham have got the money, Man United have got the money. And by the way, I don't care what Tottenham do as long as we bring in Jadon Sancho. But I think the points you guys made there are absolutely right in relation to that. I want to talk about...
Quick question. Would you take Dele Alli? Because the reason why I asked, as a part of that, the tweet from Fabrizio on his Instagram, he says Dele Alli is part of the Gareth Bale deal, but he's been offered to Real Madrid on loan, as to many other clubs. Now, personally, he's better than Lingard, he's better than Pereira, but we got Donny van der Beek and we've got Bruno Fernandes for that.
Yeah, we don't need Dele Alli.
Where he fits in, but
I wanted to ask a quick question on there just before we transfer over. Say so we're not getting Reguilon, that's happening. Say if we don't get Grimaldo or Tellez, Ethan Laird, are we on the bandwagon? Because I wouldn't mind seeing him play games personally. That's what I'm saying.
I wouldn't mind seeing him play games, but I just wonder, is he ready for Champions League? Because again, I don't know if I'm sounding like a broken record. I probably am. But the Champions League is a different planet, bro. Like, we're up against some of the best players in the world, and they do not care if Ethan Laird comes from the academy and we need to ease him in. They don't care, bro. They'll just run at him and try and completely destroy him. So as much as I rate him, I don't know.
Yeah, what I would say about all our young academy players yet to make, look at Williams as well. What happened to him? Started off brilliantly. If you look at September, round to December, excellent. A poor end to the season. A lot of United fans have already turned on him, which I think is an absolute abomination for supporters to do that at this point, because he's shown promise, which means there's something in there. Whether he becomes good enough to make us champions or whether he's good enough to become a squad player remains to be seen, but support him. If someone like Ethan Laird comes in and he has a sketchy start, these same idiots are going to go for him. And I think Ollie needs to be very mindful of protecting his youngsters. We've already got quite a few young players in our team already.
Yes.
It'd be an interesting one.
I know he's a right back, chat. He can also play left. He's played left a few times.
He can play both.
He can play both. That's all he is.
So let's just talk. We're going to throw Cameron in as well in a minute. But on the Jadon Sancho situation, by the way, before we go any further, please hit the like button. So important to us that you do it. There's nearly 3,000 people tuning in. So hit the like button right now. Share the stream right now on your social media platforms. It's really important to us that you get that done. This is what was said earlier on today by, he's a Norwegian journalist, but he's very close to Ollie. He's someone that's very, very close with Ollie. And this is what Fredrik Fultvedt said, that Solskjaer has recently had a conversation with Jadon Sancho and told Sancho that he believes his transfer to Man United will be completed very, very soon. Sancho is said to have expressed his keenness to be joining Manchester United still. He goes on to speak about a few other bits and pieces there. This was interesting news that all came today. So you had the Ian McGarry comment on the Transfer podcast that Man United feel, barring a catastrophic collapse, they're still confident it goes through. You had the comment from Fabrizio where he said that Jadon Sancho spoke to the Dortmund board and said that he's not going to kick up a fuss if he doesn't leave, but he'd be happy to join Man United if they were to come in and bid, which is good news for Man United. The player still wants to come, hasn't become disenfranchised. And then this news as well from Fredrik to come out and say he's spoken to Ollie, and Ollie is still very, very encouraged about this deal happening and going through. I wanted to ask you, and I'll start with KJ on this. Are you still confident that there's life in the Sancho deal, or do you just feel that we're being spun a line now and nothing's going to, because there are some United fans that think it's dead, isn't going to happen. Maybe they're just hedging their bets to not get their hopes up. With all the news that's come out today, where nothing has dramatically changed in terms of the negotiations, but you can still see that the player appears to be interested. What's your thoughts and feelings around it at the moment?
I've always said I believe we'll get Jadon Sancho, and that hasn't changed. The fact that United are still keeping these reports going is a good sign, because I know what United are like. As soon as they're not really interested in player, you already see the things of, we never really looked at him. It was just speculation. We were being used to get another club to come in and bid. Like, that's what United are like. They don't like looking like they failed. So the fact that we're still getting these stories come out, the fact that we've not come out and said we are not looking at Jadon Sancho through whatever credible journalist it is, that means that the deal, they're still looking to do the deal. And I've said from many shows ago, I would want to see United go take this to the final day, because he's a player that I really want. He's a player that we really need. So if United just gave up now, I'll be disappointed. But the fact that they're still going, I'm happy with that. And I believe that we'll get him in the end.
Which is great. I want to go to Cameron on this, and then I'll just answer that question around Sancho, etc. What's your thoughts on the deal? Still alive in your mind, or are you concerned about it? Remember, Harry a few days ago, Harry
Pinero,
that's his name, said that it's done.
Pinero, yeah.
You know, saying it's his friend. And that's what I mean by the cycling of this news. You get that news and yeah, it's happening. And then it goes a week and it's like, oh, it's not happened yet. And again, I think that's what's making fans angry. What's your thoughts on it all, Cam?
So I truly believe it only happens if we follow their terms. I don't, the deadline, whatever, but clearly it's 120 M's, no add-ons. That's what they want. Like we talked about how, like you said, like the structure or whatnot. I believe we're still trying to slip in Ballon d'Or or Champions League winners. I believe we're still trying that nonsense, and they're going, here's the deal. We promised Jadon he can leave if we get 120 M's. Same, like we promised Pogba he could leave if we got 120 M's. It was known. We said if Real comes in with like 100 million, it would have been 100 million. We know that, but we said 120. If Real came in with 100 million, we would have let Pogba go. So we can't get mad at another club saying, yo, 120 is what we rate this kid at. He's 20 years old. And I've got to a point where United keep doing this, where they brief us and they say, we're going, we're trying, we're working on the deal. And if it falls apart, they'll be like, oh, Dortmund's asking price was unrealistic. It's their asking price. So if you're in for the player and you want the player, and like Neek said, nobody in the world could say it would be a bad footballing decision. Who cares about the money? Because at the end of the day, when we win the league, when we win Champions League, you forget about the money. It's done. Remember, there's a line that Mourinho said, and I'll never forget this line. And it's one of the few things that it stuck with me. He goes, in a few years, you will see that 89 million for Pogba will be cheap. I agree with him to this day. That's still not a bad deal, right? People were like, what are you doing, United? Pogba hasn't done anything.
Cam, I was talking about this just last year and got laughed at. I said that 78 million pound for Maguire will in 4 or 5 years look cheap, because the price of players is just going to continue to grow, because even though there's a little downward spiral now because of CV19, which nobody foresaw, it's only money's just going to increase. At some point in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see the digital streamers bid billions above what Sky and BT pay for TV rights, and it's going to become even bigger. You'll see something eventually. You'll see a sort of 10-11 billion pound bid. By the way, drop in the ocean for Amazon.
I can give you
the ocean to their money.
So I have direct insight on that. So, and hopefully nobody's seen, but I work for DAZN in Canada. I don't know if you guys heard about them.
Yeah,
so they took all of football streaming from, we have these two companies called Bell and Rogers. It's kind of like your Sky and BBC and whatnot. They took all of football, and I'm talking American football and European soccer. They took all of it, or football, whatever. Sorry, I keep doing that. I apologize. It's just habit.
You don't got to apologize.
So they took all of it, and it's because they bid through the roof. Bell and Rogers were comfortable. They're like, man, we'll keep doing what we're doing. We're the only two here. These mans came in and said, thank you, the rights are up, we'll take it. So you're completely correct on that. These streaming companies are going to come out. They're going to take the market. And to answer your earlier question, I am halfway confident that we'll get Sancho. We just need to pay the money. We will not get him at a discount. But yeah, you are completely right. These streaming companies are going to destroy.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And as soon as these digital companies do that, most of that money goes to the club. So at the moment, let's say just think domestic TV money, because the internationals is quite convinced. It's about 5 to 6 billion between all the clubs over a 3-year period at the moment. It equates to about 150 million a year in TV money. When a company comes in and bids double that, suddenly you're gonna get you'll get a club like United. It'll be an extra 120 to 150 million pound a year in. Now a lot of people will say, "Well, it's extra money." Yes, but then what happens is that growth is hundreds of percent. The growth that's added onto the income of these clubs will then be added onto the transfer premiums. So if you get a player that was worth 100 million, and let's just say that the economy of football grows by 80% because of this influx, 80% gets added onto the premium of players. So suddenly that player will be 100, maybe not quite as much as that, but that player goes from being 100 million to 150, 160 million, because especially from the European clubs, and they will all clump together going, well, we ain't got that money, but this is how we get it. And the German clubs are brilliant. They'll go, this is how we get the English money, is we sell them our players, but we all clump together and make sure we don't yield, and we get that increase. It's just the way it works. And, it's and eventually what you'll see is 80 million pound players now going for 160 million pounds in 4 or 5 years time. And you'll look back and go, it'll be mad. In 10 years time, you'll look back and go, my God, we got Bruno Fernandes for a total of 47 million. We got Pogba for 85 million pounds. Are you sure? You just, a player that you don't think is as good has just gone for 170 million. But it's relative. It's always relative. When we signed Rooney for 27 million pound now for a player seems cheap. That's what Wayne Rooney costs. It is peanuts in the modern day game. You know what I mean? It gets you some average left back called Sergio. Do you know what I mean? I agree with that. In terms, another deal that's circulating, I want some opinions on. A lot of people said it was misquoted, but he has retweeted himself. Christian Falk has said that Bayern Munich are expecting an offer from Manchester United in relation to Thiago. His move to Liverpool depends on Gini Wijnaldum. That's interesting for me, because that goes back 2.5 months. We had David Lynch on here, Liverpool correspondent, that said Thiago to Liverpool only happens if Gini Wijnaldum leaves. It literally only happens in case of that. Now, like I've said, I think that the reason this was not moved any further is we're not going to put an official bid in for PR reasons until we know we can get Thiago. But if Gini Wijnaldum stays and Thiago is available, according to Christian Falk, Man United are there ready and waiting in the wings to swoop in. How big a signing would that be? Do you think it's, I mean, how much of that do you believe, Neeks, and what's your interpretation of how that deal is operating?
No, I think we're definitely interested in him. I think it would be foolish of us not to be interested in him at that price, especially when, for me, he improves every midfield in the Premier League, if not the world. No, he improves every midfield in the world, if we're going to be honest. So I think it'll be foolish not to be in for him. We know he wants to come to the Premier League. He's done it in La Liga. I said done it. He's played in La Liga. He's done it in the Bundesliga. He wants at the latter end of his career. But he's not old. He's 29 years old. 29, isn't it?
Yeah, 29. Yeah.
So that's not old. And he's not a player. He's not a winger. He doesn't rely heavily. Never has on his pace. As you get older, especially when you're playing in a deep line position, the brain is the most important thing. As you get older, you get the experience. So for me, I would take that signing in an absolute heartbeat. And I do think we're interested. But as you said, I can't see us putting in a bid until we know the player wants to come, because that's the way that Man United do their work. We very rarely put in a bid for someone and then get rejected in the contract. We will do it the other way around. We'll see if they want to come on and go from there. I obviously hope Liverpool keep Wijnaldum, which means that Thiago is available to come to Man United. I think if Liverpool get Thiago, I'd make them favourites to win the league if they were to get Thiago. Man City would have to do an absolute madness between now and October the 5th for me to say that they would beat a Liverpool Thiago. But if they don't, then it gives everyone else a bit more chance to, close the theoretical gap. He's a quality player, absolute quality player. Walks straight into our midfield ahead of Nemanja Matic, I would personally say, and makes us, for me, if we were to get Thiago, as well as obviously we've got Donny van de Beek, I wouldn't even worry about top four. Wouldn't worry at all.
I'm surprised Man City ain't trying to get him, because he seems like a Pep kind of player.
Yeah, he does. But I just don't think he's a priority for them.
They just spent a lot of money on Rodri.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about like Fernandinho, like retiring soon. I know he's playing centre back now, but
it's kind of like I kind of think they spent way too much on Rodri and Pep. So Pep's weird. You know how he likes to move his lineup and move people around and play them out of positions. I think the one thing that scares me about the United links is it's the same thing kind of happened with Sanchez, where we knew he wanted to go to City. It was clear that's where he wanted to go. And then we came in and we blew the wages out of the window and we ended up getting him. And then when he got here, he clearly just didn't want to be here. If it didn't go well right off the bat. And when you do that with a player, even like Thiago, who I think is a great player. I think if he came in, you're right, he walks into our he is our CDM for as long as he can stay healthy. But if he comes in and something doesn't go right or whatever, now he's on big wages, doesn't actually want to be there, and we broke what kind of all he's been building. All these whole structures built around you live and you die and you want to be a United player. That's why Dean Henderson has never been sold. Because
I said earlier, I don't know if you were listening at the time, but I said I think anyone we sign under Solskjaer, I'm convinced that they want to be here. Because for me,
I hear that.
If we get him, I don't have a concern about whether he wants.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I agree with. So if we get him, I'm comfortable because I trust Ollie, and that's where everyone knows in the middle of the season I lost my head, and I've apologized for it. And I'm not going to go through it again, but that's where I trust Ollie because I truly think he has the best interests of the club at heart. And I know a lot of people go, yeah, but then he's a puppet because, like, when he says he's happy with his squad and it's clearly not good enough. But bro, that's about being professional. And I would rather always have a man like Ollie on the inside of the tent spitting out than the outside spitting in. We cannot get rid of the Glazers until multiple millions of United fans globally are willing to clump together and take the finances away from them. Until that happens, the best we can hope for is that you have people like Ollie steering the ship internally, where we're not going to get everything we want, but we might be able to compromise bits and pieces out. Because that's what Fergie did from 2005 through to his retirement, in my opinion, is he kept it on an even keel as best he could. You really think that on those summers where Sir Alex was saying there's no value in the market, do you really think he meant that? Or he was towing the company line? And he had to, because he had no control over that. As much as he was that powerful at the club, he couldn't make the Glazers do exactly what he wanted. It's just impossible to do that. So I'd always rather have an Ollie there who's going to put the club's best interest first, rather than, say, a Jose who got angry with the way the club was being run and took it out on his squad and took it out on his players and made it a toxic environment. Look at this year. One thing that's gone unnoticed, and this is why the media will be out to get us in terms of the trend. But let me throw this out to you, by the way. We sign Thiago, or if we sign Sancho, straight away the narrative will be crumbled, capitulated, mercenary with Thiago. He really wanted Liverpool. We had to overpay the odds. They will spin it. So right now they're calling it negative. We've signed nobody. If we sign these players, it will be spun into a negative that we have no plan of action, that it's a panic buy, that we yielded, that the negotiations were bad. It's negative for Man United either way. That is what the media are going to do. I'll call it here right now. That's what's going to happen. But the most important thing for me when I look at this Man United squad this summer, first time since Fergie retired, because it happened the summer that he retired with Rooney, that we haven't had major players linked with moves away. There's been no talk of infighting, managers falling out with players. Even last year, there was like the Martial, Ollie thing about Ollie being lazy, calling him out towards the end of the season as an example. Like pre-season's kind of protruded because of what happened, but like for like stage of the season, Ollie's resolved all those matters. Like, doesn't it feel amazing to have a summer where we relax about nobody leaving?
When you think about it, there's a lot of players that need to go. Like what's his name? Well, Sanchez obviously left.
Rojo.
Rojo. Pereira. But obviously, all of them are not going to go. But it's all just being done, or not done, very quietly. In the past, where is that person? He hasn't returned from pre-season. He's on a holiday. He's here. He's there. Everything, other than the fact that two of our players have been
a little bit of Greenwood and Maguire problems.
Outside of Solskjaer's control, everything is either being done or not being done very quietly in terms of player departures. And that's what you want. When we're trying to get rid of players, we don't need, factions appearing in the dressing room, because there might be a player, let's say, for argument's sake, Lingard, who is good friends with Marcus Rashford. If Solskjaer is, sidelining him and sending him to face the wall, that creates its own problems with the players that you're actually trying to keep. And I think Solskjaer's man management, which I've said before, his coaching it's questionable. You have to question it because he hasn't delivered on that level when you compare to some of his rivals, like what I'm talking about, in terms of clubs, like Pep, like Klopp. He hasn't done that. So you have to question it until he proves it. But when it comes to man management, I don't think there's a better one right now in the Premier League for the stature of club that he's at to manage the level of plays that he's doing. I wouldn't have anyone else. So I trust Oli when it comes to, judging personality and character of players.
Yeah, I think if you go back to that summer 2 years ago where we only signed Fred really, and it was when we first saw Jose start to really crumble. What I saw all United fans calling him out for day in, day out, week in, week out was quite simply, how dare you plant that seed of doubt, or how dare you undermine your squad? How dare you take my team? I don't like these players. He got ridiculed for that. Those same United fans that ridiculed him for doing it are the same United fans that are moaning that Oli doesn't do it. That's why I know Oli's doing the right thing. And that's also what makes me believe that these are not real Man United fans, because whatever the manager does, whoever we sign or however we sign them, they will always spin it into a negative. It will always be looked at from the negative connotation. They look at it like they're rival fans of Man United and not Manchester United supporters. That's why I don't trust in them. Everything is quite... If we actually become a really good team again, you'll just see these people disappear. You won't really see them around. They'll start talking about other teams. It's always so negative.
The culture thing is such I get really frustrated because I seen when Oli came in, everybody's just like, he's just trying to copy Sir Alex Ferguson. He's just trying to do. It's like people don't quite understand that culture that Sir Alex Ferguson built is why United's great, and that's why you have Juventus bringing in a Pirlo. You have you need to stick to your bases and your roots. Like you see it in all sports, and I like to bring up other sports sometimes with you guys. 'Cause I like doing the comparisons. Like teams build a culture and an identity. So the fact that Oli was sitting at home watching us lose our identity, watching us become a team that goes after these merchants, these bounty hunters who just want to get money and come in and try and win quick and say I played for United. Oli came in and was like, whoa, hold on. No, I want to blood in the kids who want to be here, turn them into stars, and then bring in the men who have worshipped the badge from outside looking in, who are like, you know what? United is a team I want to be a part of. We lost that. We brought in the Louis van Gaal, who was kind of trying to do it, but his football was just so terrible. And then we brought in Jose, who wanted to coach Man United for, we all know the reasons, to say he coached Man United, to say so he could get a win.
That is so true.
Jose wanted to add to his resume. He didn't care. He didn't care about building United up. He wanted to come in, win trophies, use our money, our buying power to build the team he wanted. And then if it didn't work, I'm out. Peace. So you have Oli who's come in and been like, even if I get sacked, I'm going to make sure that the base that I build for this team, I'm going to be able to sit at home and be happy that we're moving down.
When's his contract up? Is it end of this season?
End of next season.
End of next season.
End of next season, 3 years. But it's Ollie's trying to. I look at Ollie. Ollie wants to be a successful manager and win titles. There's no doubt that he doesn't want that. But I think his overall aim is to just set us back on the right course, and I think that's why I've got a lot of time and respect for him. He just he doesn't throw his players under the bus. You've had players leave that have had bad times here that love him for it. You look at the way Lukaku speaks about him. That, for me, is just palpable. But listen, everyone who's tuned in this evening, thank you very, very much as always. We really do appreciate it here at the Football Terrace. Back tomorrow with more content for you. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yeah, so tomorrow night, 9 p.m., that Chelsea show, Monster, Anita, Kai versus the boys from Coppish and Alex from the Cop TV previewing Chelsea versus Liverpool. Make sure you're tuning in. I think it's going to be a really good, heated night. 9 p.m. tomorrow night on the Football Terrace. Make sure you're tuning in for that. We're going to have because of the way we've built the team here now, we're going to have big preview shows for the top 6 clashes this year, and this is the first one. So many, many, many more.
Over under on how long it takes Anita to tell someone to shut up.
On that. I mean, open a poll on it. Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care of yourselves. Smash the like button, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Peace.